Yesterday, I went to the park again, and I had every intention of doing another little video. Did a video, didn't pan out. Ended up deleting it, rather than just having my trio in the back seat. I brought my parents' dogs along, and they get really stressed out, especially the older one. She's a rescue, and she was panting nonstop over the top. And I felt like the video in and of itself just didn't flow like I would want it to. And then the fact that I was listening to this dog panting over the top the entire time did not help. So I think I started watching it to see if I was willing to put it out there, and it's like, I can't even get past like 3 minutes in, so no. And then last night I went to the God sign class, and it's so funny. Every time I go in, I have like these big things that I feel like I want to share with the class, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. I think the class is aware, at least after last night, that me using my voice is a big part of my challenge and what I'm supposed to be doing. It's something I've mentioned at least a couple times, and last night was a little more extensively. But it seems like it's always Thursday and Friday after the class that stuff happens that I really, really want to talk about. And then by the time the class rolls around, it's like, I don't know. I feel like I don't remember all the details. And last night, I kind of wanted to share, since I'd finally started doing these videos again. And there were a couple other people that shared some things. And then a person down the, I think 3 or 4 seats down from where I was at, had something she wanted to share. So she did. And then Annie said she thought she saw a hand, and she looked right directly at me, thinking I was the one that had raised my hand. But it was funny because I hadn't, but I was thinking about it, and, just kind of letting the wheels spin. What am I going to say? And do that, kind of piece it all together. And she actually saw somebody else that was on the other side of me, who was waving at somebody across the room. But since she looked right at me thinking I was the one that had said something, I was like, you know what? I will share. And then I forgot the most important part of it. I didn't realize that until 5 minutes later. The biggest thing that I had wanted to start with was that dream that I had last week, where the girl told me that how was it that was said? Oh, I need to share the story that I have before my mission will be made clear, and it'll take some time for it to gain momentum, so I need to go ahead and start. But I completely forgot all about that one, so I just started with, there was a couple tarot readings that I caught that were very emphatically saying, start, you need to take action, now is the time. And then I also did remember to share the part about how it was the 5-year anniversary of leaving a toxic relationship for the very last time. So it's like, these good things I still shared, but then I forgot the most important part that I had thought about for a week, and then just, gone. But everyone seemed to kind of, perk up when I started talking about doing this YouTube thing, and taking initiative at using my voice. And I don't remember how she said it exactly. I don't know if she said something about the energy around me is expanding. And she said it was just a little bit before, but now it's like a lot, or a lot more. And they were all very supportive. And somebody asked if I minded sharing the channel. It's like, that's fine. But then I immediately, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, now I got to rewatch the videos and make sure I didn't say anything stupid. As is my always thought. As is always my thought. But yeah, there were a few things I've had this week that have kind of been triggers and made me feel a weird kind of way, and it's like, there's something I need to work on here. And then I remembered this email that I got the other day from the Twin Flames 1111 page that was talking about the asteroid Lilith is, I don't know a lot about astrology, but something about the asteroid was causing karmic patterns to be triggered for the feminine, and it might be a difficult thing, but it doesn't have to be. The big thing that I've been kind of fighting with recently has been with my dad, because I'm very much not into the religious stuff that I used to be, and am finding my own way now. And he's so set on thinking that I'm going to hell because that's what religion does. And we butt heads quite a bit right now. And I know that is part of why I had to move back home when I did, to get the divorce and all that stuff, because there is a lot that I'm having to process, or have been having to process, while I've been there. And issues with family dynamics and relating are things that I've had to work on. But last night was funny because I had my phone in the cup holder on the way back from class, and at first I was listening to music, but then my music kept shutting itself off. It's like, well, I must be meant to be listening or be driving in silence then. So I shut the music off, and then I had my phone back in the cup holder, and all at once I thought I heard some talking or something. It's like, what is going on? So I pick up my phone, and apparently my dad's on the line. And he was like, yes. I was like, did I call you or did you call me? He said, you called me. It's like, oh, well, I was not trying to. Apparently my phone called him like 5 times yesterday when I was not trying to do anything with it. I don't even like using the phone, honestly. I pretty much only pick it up for phone purposes if I'm in a hurry to get a response. Otherwise, text me, it'll be fine. And that's usually how I look at it when the phone rings. It's like, what do you want? And it doesn't matter who it is. It's just, why is the phone making noise? But yeah, so my phone called him like 5 times yesterday. And I think it was the night before that I had told my brother that I was actively considering blocking him for a while because he kept sending me this shit that he knows I don't want. And I have told him parts of why I'm not going back to it, but he keeps sending it. It's like, there's something more to that story. Um, this today, or no, I don't think I'm ready for today yet. The cards I pulled yesterday for my tarot of the day or whatever, I went with this Archetypes Oracle deck. I'd like to look at the decks that I have and sit with them, and it's like, okay, which one has a message for me today? And that one did. And it was before my phone was calling my dad and all that, so that was a whole separate thing. But the cards I pulled, there was the Village, the Vow, the Riddle, the Queen, and the Castle. And the Village is talking about family, the tribe, and how you have to, at some point, leave the tribe to find yourself, and then usually you'll end up returning to it in some way. And the vow was, I think it was serving as a reminder that to watch what you say, because if you make a promise or a vow to do something, or in your connections with people, everything on the other side steps in. It's like, all right, you're gonna be locked into whatever vow you made, and if you break it, then it will be a thing that comes back to haunt you in some way. And I don't think it matters if it's this lifetime or another lifetime. So going back to the connection with my dad, back in the fall, one of the videos that I deleted on my first YouTube attempt, it was the reason I deleted the whole bunch of them, because I had gotten really frustrated. My dad and I got into it, and he ended up calling me a dumb bitch. And pissed me off. I'm not going to say I was responding to what was going on in a necessarily productive way, but that was still completely out of line. And even though I could look at him and know that it wasn't because he actually thought that I was one, because that is a phrase that I have noticed he throws around at anybody who says something he doesn't agree with, like on politics and all that crap. And he loves watching his politics and the religious crap. So, yeah. I did, however, because I was pissed, tell my mom to deal with her husband because he he was acting up. Yeah. Anyway, the whole thing wasn't pleasant. I ended up at the cemetery. I jogged for a little bit, and then I did this video, and I'm actually probably going to repost them. I feel like I should, because I think it shows more of my journey and my process for where I was starting out versus where I am now. And when I deleted everything, I did so thinking, well, is this something I need to share with the world necessarily? And because I kept feeling like if I was talking about it, it meant I was somehow locked into still feeling or thinking that way, but I think the purpose is that one of these days, whenever the thing that makes people notice me comes about, I think it's just to show that where I end up is not where I started out, because I think a lot of people, myself included, really struggle to start anything. I know I wanted to play piano when I was in high school, but anytime I messed up was like just a tiny little bit off, like I would literally just start pounding on the keyboard because it pissed me off so much. It's like, why are you not perfect already? And I eventually gave it up, which is unfortunate because nobody learns just by sitting down and, oh, hey, I can do this. Okay, I mean, there's a few people that can. I think my high school boyfriend was really good about sitting down and just knowing exactly what he was hearing. That might have been part of where my frustration at not being able to do that came in. But yeah, I think we all struggle with that. So I think the purpose of me putting it out there to begin with was just to get it out of my system. And I think when I deleted it, it just took away from my process a little bit. And I think I need to put it back just so that anybody who at any point does take interest in what I do in the future can see that there was a time it did not start out so pretty. I think that might have been the video where I was over looking over this little drop off where there's a creek that runs through there, and I was crying because I was so frustrated at feeling stuck, because here I am, 40 years old, living with my parents again, and not sure how I'm getting out of that. I know the universe has some stuff lined up, and all I can do is one step at a time, follow what I know I'm being led to do. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I think because of that, I need to put the old stuff back just so people can see that the end result is not the whole process. Yeah. Last night when I went to bed, like there were some things that were still stuck in my head. It's like, what? I need this to go away. It was frustrating me. And then I started thinking, like I tried to write. I keep a notebook by my bed, and then when I have nights like that, I will try to write in it and just get it out of my head. But for whatever reason, it was not working well. And so when 3:00 rolled around, this is early, but I went ahead and fed my dogs, because otherwise, if 5:00 rolls around and I'm still asleep, they're going to wake me up so that I will feed them. And I didn't want to be woken up whenever I got back to sleep, so I just went ahead and fed them. So while they were eating, I went and got the notebook that I write to my twin flame in. And we went back into bed, and I turned the regular light on because for the notebooks to him, I write with green pen. And the reason I started doing that was because it's associated with the heart chakra. And the big purpose of all of my journey has been to reconnect with my heart space. Because, most of my life, I feel like it was just shut off. And there were some things I felt should have affected me more than they did because of the fact that it was kind of closed down. And then there were other things that I was grateful I didn't have to feel more of than I was, because I think I would have gotten trapped in them, or in those patterns. So that's why I was writing in green pen. And the last time one of my green pens died on me, I found a bunch more, but they were lighter colors. So the one that I currently have, I think, is the lightest shade that I have. And it was just like, we're going to have to get this one gone anyway. So that was my motivation. But it made it so I had to turn the actual lamp on to be able to write anything. I have like these little light strips that usually, the one in my room is like this orangey yellow color, because it's bright enough that I can see, but it's still got enough of the red tones that kind of make me sleepy, so I don't wake myself up by like throwing the blue on or whatever. Because that does it. If it's really bright, then it's like, now I'm awake. So yeah, I was not doing that. So I got the actual lamp and was using it instead. And I vented some things and freed up the space in my system. And then I had no problem falling asleep. It's like, wow. In fact, when I woke up, I felt like that connection was still wide awake. And see, normally I try to write at any point during the day. When something comes up that I think about, then I'll write it down. And I feel like last night it kind of helped keep that connection open energetically, which, look, it's always open. I know, like, he's shown up in many, many dreams, and I had one the other day. I actually went to bed. It's like, all right, I want to remember whatever dreams I have, and especially if he's in them. And I ended up having this dream where it was weird. It's like there was this old rickety building that we were in, and like the walls were really dark wood, and there were all these people standing around, and for some reason I'm like crawling through on this black mat, like one of those thick comfort ones for when you're standing in the kitchen or whatever. And like I'm crawling in, and like there's videos playing up on the wall where it's like his, I don't know, travel memories or something. And like I didn't really focus on any of the stuff that was playing, but I was aware that it was his stuff. And I crawl into this room behind this group of people, and he's crawling in this room also, and coming from a different place, and we meet up, and it's like we're vaguely aware, like I feel like I'm more aware of who he is in the dream than he is of who I am, and yet he's committed to, we have this mission that we're on. So, you know, then we like jump up and we're like off to find something else, and he seems like he knows more about what we're doing and where we're going than I do. But all at once, it's like he shifts into like where he's a little kid and like really uncomfortable with himself for a little bit. And when I woke up, what I took from that was maybe wherever he's at in his process is not ready to connect like that, and that he was came across as feeling very uncertain because he's got stuff he's got to work on before he's really ready to allow space for the connection to happen. Yeah. But anyway, after that dream, I was like, all right, if I don't need to remember it, then I don't need to remember it. So, universe, let it be whatever it is. If we're on these missions and I'm asleep and don't remember anything, I'm sure it'll come back up when it's time, because there are these moments where I can kind of see like things that have had to do with who he is in the physical world. It's like there'll be something that I can see how it's like the universe kind of puts a pin in it, and it's like, all right, you're gonna remember this, but not immediately, and you'll be shown when it's time. And until then, go about your business. Continue on your life. So, yeah, so I just was like, all right, it'll make it clear whenever it's time, whenever it's that connection is coming close to fruition, more stuff will start happening again. In the meantime, all I can do is really focus on my path. So this morning when I woke up, like I had all these thoughts that were just flowing, nonstop flowing. And I was texting them to myself because I think I don't know if I mentioned that in the video I kept or not. I might have mentioned it in yesterday's that I did not keep. So I text myself notes whenever I have like a big bunch of stuff that comes through my head. Because I feel like writing it down isn't fast enough. My hand doesn't move fast enough for my brain to get it out of my system and to really make me understand it. So, and sometimes I'll put it on the computer, but that's usually a lot of work to go in there, turn it on, make sure my stuff's all ready and get it going and make sure I save it. So I just text it to myself, because then it comes up the time that I sent it as well as the time where I received it back from myself. So I was doing that. It goes a lot faster, and that was something that I noticed back when Tyler died. There would be times it's like my hand is not moving fast enough, so I would text stuff, and I had a thought at the time. It's like, I'm going to write my book through text messages. That's what's going to end up happening. This whole thing's going to be written on my phone, and then it's going to be my process of like, currently, when they're good ideas, I revisit them and put them in these twin flame notebooks, because the whole purpose of this is my process. So I want to include what I was thinking in there, because there's going to be other things that are connected to it. Yeah. So I have yet to do that today, although I did, like there was a bunch of big spans that I wrote and sent to myself. And the nice thing is, if I accidentally click off of it, it stays there as a draft. So I think that's the big thing. Whereas if my computer locks up and shuts down on me, it's not always guaranteed. I have gotten the blue screen of death before, and that was not fun. Although the thing that made me most bummed about that was just that I lost so many pictures of my pets at the time, because that was in Alabama. But a lot of, I mean, once it's gone, it's gone. If you forget about it, then it's It's like it never was. So when I got up, got dressed, my brain was still processing, and like I was working through some of the karmic patterns that had been shoveled back into my awareness to be dealt with. And it's funny because it's never just one thing. And I think that's the biggest I don't know, the biggest illusion of all. Everybody wants to think nothing is connected, but in reality, everything is connected. There was a conversation that came up where I found myself kind of triggered with somebody I was talking to, and then this morning as I was piecing through that, it was like the pieces were starting to come together, and it was for like both this guy that I don't really know that well, my dad, and religion. It's like all these components were like stacked up on top of one another. And I think the frustrations that I've been having with my dad come from some stuff that I'm still working through. Like, okay, there were years from when I was 8 till when I was about 16, we did not go to church. And we started to after we connected with some people through the band stuff that invited us, and then it was like family and more family because we're connected through drumline stuff, so there's the drumline family, which is also the church family, and it was like a great big connection. Now, it was good for a time, and it definitely served its purpose, but is definitely not the full picture. We stopped going to that church at a time I didn't know. Okay, when I lost myself, the problem with all the stuff that I'm doing is it's all interconnected, and there's some stuff I wrote in the notebook to my twin earlier and texted to myself later that I don't think I've shared in the video, but I also it's like it's together in my head, but I don't know how much of it, if I just throw it out into this video, it feels like it'll leave gaps. But I'm going to look at it. Thank you. She was licking her foot and I looked at her. I'm just going to have to roll with it, and I don't remember where all of that was or how it fit in. She's ready to go home and eat. But it'll come together in the book. Because then I'll have everything together in one way or another, because I will share parts of what I did in this video when I write later. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to rely on the universe to put it together as it's needed. So yeah. One of the things that I had mentioned, I think in my text to myself, it's like when I was in high school, I was the least amount affected by the world at large, as I would go on to later be affected. So at that time, okay, I dated this guy in high school. It was like my sophomore year in high school, and we broke up my sophomore year in undergrad. I knew pretty early on that he was not who I was meant to be with. And because of that, I attempted to break up with him 3 times. And everybody always made me feel like shit about it. And then there was the fact that we were actively involved in all the same activity. So it's like, how am I going to be able to have a life and be friends with him or not? I mean, I thought he was a really good guy, and like I wanted to keep him as a friend, but at the same time, all the energy around breaking up with him kept coming back to me. So I was feeling like the weight of how he was feeling, and then the weight of how my friends who were giving me a hard time about it were feeling, and then it made me feel bad. And since I felt like, since I was aware of all these deeper layers to everything, that I was somehow responsible for what I picked up from others. Tezzy. And it took a long time before I figured out that it's not the case. That's not how any of it works. And I am only responsible for my stuff, in spite of what everybody else wanted me to think. And now I am more protective of my own energy than I've ever been, because I know how easily swayed I am by the energies I pick up from others around me. So because of that, I try to rein myself in quite a bit. And it's funny because I remember when when I came out of my military training and realizing that I somehow picked up all these other energies. It was a very bad idea, and I know that now, but I didn't believe it was something that was actually happening at the time. So it's like, fine, if there's anything I can do to help others in the world around me, just with my existence, then let's do it. And that included anybody I passed on the road, y'all. And since it was right after my military training, and the only thing I knew for sure was that I like to help people, it seems like, okay, if this is a thing, then surely it's not a bad thing, right? And now I'm realizing where my vow logic came in at, or my vow card. So I think that's what it wanted me to remember, so I can make sure to disconnect that. Because I don't think I said it as a vow. I just said it as something I want to help. If I can help, let me help. And I'm going to have to tweak that one too. So I didn't really think there was anything to that. And now that I'm thinking about the vow card that I pulled yesterday, I'm realizing that that's something I'm going to have to undo as well. Back in September, I think, there was this thing through Hay House called Mystical Connections, where it was like a day with all these different speakers. And there were people like Kyle Gray, Radley Valentine, Rebecca Campbell, a bunch of people that I love what they're doing and what they put out in the world. And like I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. It's for free, so I'm going to sign up for it. Then I forgot about it. And like I knew it was questionable with the date. I think it was scheduled on a Thursday, and I worked Mondays and Fridays at the factory, but that took a lot out of me, honestly, for a lot of reasons. But the day of this thing, I was asked if I could drop my niece off at school, because everybody else had conflicts for the moment. There's like a doctor's appointments or whatever, so my parents couldn't do it. So it's like, all right, I'll do it. And then it was, oh wait, this thing's happening and I'm already awake, so that must mean I'm meant to watch some of it. So I did. And I think it was Radley that said, he talked about how we're all empaths, or we all have that ability in us, and we all tend to send out these feelers, if you will, from the solar plexus chakra, that seeks to find where it can help others. And I don't remember the full thing. I'm sure I have it written down in a journal. But I just remember it's like, okay. So he said, you have to remember to call all parts of yourself back to you from time to time. I was like, how do you do that? And it was basically just that. You just say you want it back and it'll come back. And it was so funny because the entire time I was with my ex-husband, I knew I was not a whole person. I was not, I felt like I wasn't in a good space. And I will tell you stories, and have already told you stories, about how toxic it was. But I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to say he was the only toxic component in it, because a big part of it was the fact that I didn't know who I was. So in that way, I also was toxic. Because if you don't know who you are and where you stop and others begin, it can make for a mess. And I didn't really realize that until I was listening to Radley talk about this stuff. And it's like, okay. So I was like, so yeah, I want anything back that I've ever let go out into the world. Anything that's mine, I want back. It's like, immediately it felt different. And since then, I mean, granted, there are a lot of things I've had to be learning, and I've had to do since then to return that again. But I don't know that I've ever felt that much returned to myself, or that much my own. And it was immediate. And it was funny too because I had made a comment to a couple of my roller derby friends that maybe I should take voice lessons, and then that way it would help me find my voice again. Well, after listening to Radley talk, when I was driving to work the next day, I was like, wait a second. Maybe if it worked that easily with everything else, maybe it works that way with my voice too. And maybe I want to take back all aspects of where I lost my voice along the way. I want to take back all that's mine. And I do say that frequently. If it's something that was mine to begin with, or that I've had in other lifetimes, whatever that I've learned or picked up along the way, if it was mine and I knew it at some point, I want it all back. And I'm finding more and more that stuff that I didn't know I knew or had otherwise lost along the way. Maybe starting over in life, started with a clean slate and they lost all the rest of it. Whatever. It's like whatever I've learned and whatever gifts I've had, I want it all back. And I think that I'm definitely working on it. I'm definitely getting there. And the big thing is protecting my energy. And, I've had people ask me if I feel like I might be going overboard with like the pretty rocks. Because let's see. Okay. So bloodstone is one that I use to kind of help with grounding amongst other things. But there's also, not all of them are, my obsidian. That's a big one. And the obsidian I got into back a few years ago. When I first, my ex kept showing up in dreams and it was pissing me off. It's like, what can I do? And I had a friend, a psychic friend, tell me that I needed to start protecting my energy a little bit at that time. And so I got the obsidian, and then it's like, well, if it wards off negative energies and things, it's like, I don't sleep in this thing. This is bulky as hell. Yeah, not all of them are for grounding, but the ones that help with that and protecting energy, the obsidian, the red jasper. That was the one that worked on my ex to begin with. The bloodstone has properties for that, and the Shiva lingam also can help with the grounding and protection. So, or with the grounding anyway, at least parts of it. So, I have these. I have more rocks in my pocket. I know I can immediately think there's black onyx and rainbow obsidian and septarian that are all for grounding and protecting my energy. And then there are others. I had someone ask me if I thought I was going overboard. It's like, right now? No, I don't. And when I started wearing the obsidian back in 2020 or whenever, I think it was 2020 because I was working at the other factory. She also mentioned I should make a habit of saging myself a couple times a week. She said, they have spray for that. It's like, perfect. I can get on board with the sage spray. So I started doing that, but then I was doing it like every time I got out of the shower. It's like, yep, we're gonna, just in case. And then I got this big obsidian sphere that I started keeping on a shelf over my bed. And it was amazing because having that obsidian in there, and those dreams that my ex kept showing up in, disappeared. It's like, oh, thank God. So then all I had to do was to have something around. So when I would put the sphere out in the moonlight to cleanse it, then every now and then he'd show back up. So I'd start like keeping this on the headboard or whatever, and eventually blocked him out. So where was I going? Yeah, back then I watched a video shortly after that, and heard somebody say it, that if you're blocking, basically I think what they said was something that made me question if I was blocking out everything by using the obsidian as much. So I stopped wearing it. And then yeah, I started losing myself again in various ways. And then when I started taking the class in January, Lenita was talking about how I needed to focus on that again. And then somebody in the other class was like, well, how much shielding do you really need to do? And you know what? I'm getting to a point where I am very protective of my energy, and I'm realizing how easy it is for even well-intentioned people for their energy to latch on and basically become a sort of energetic parasite for my energy. And nope, no thank you. Not doing that. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. And I really just at this point, I don't care what anybody else wants to think about how that makes me any kind of way, one way or another. I don't care. It's my energy, and I know how easy it is for my energy to just go do its own little thing without me being aware of it, because of this thing that I said once upon a time that I'm now realizing I need to have some sort of official ceremony, if you will, to break that vow and avoid saying stupid stuff like that in the future. As well-intentioned as it was, it did not serve me well. Yeah, and I think that's a big purpose of it, is just realizing how, I think we all do this, and I think that's why everything gets so muddy at times, with like knowing where you end and others begin and all that stuff. But I know at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for other people's stuff, and I need to remember that. And I'm getting a lot better at it. And I'm seeing that the universe will show me whatever I need to work on as I need it. You know, that's another thing with those cards. Yesterday, the Riddle was talking about how when you're trying to solve the riddle, you can't think about it. You can't like actively do stuff to try to figure it out necessarily. You have to just sit with it, and eventually it'll come to you. And kind of like the meaning of these cards, huh? Another thing with the cards, there's like something that I picked out of each of them that just kind of really stuck in my head, and I think that's the purpose. So here we are. For the Queen, it said the Queen doesn't entertain princes. She claims her throne and embodies who she is, knowing that her king is coming. And it talked about how magnetic she is, and because of that, it draws in all sorts of types. So you have to be cautious of what you allow into your space. And even with the well-intentioned, or the people who think they're well-intentioned, I can see how it can become a problem very quickly. And I'm just not doing that anymore. For the castle, what was the point? Oh, I think the castle talked about how when the castle appears, you need to look at the themes of property and I don't remember how it worded it. Something about issues of property are at hand, and when I read it, it made me think about issues with my dad, and like growing up, there's all these ideas like like your dad gives you away when you walk down the aisle, blah blah blah, that kind of bullshit. And in the past few years, I have been looking at the situation with my marriage a little differently, because I'd always heard about that's just tradition. Your dad walks you down the aisle and gives you away, and the husband's supposed to ask for permission and blah blah blah. And I think I knew my husband and I were never meant, were never a good idea, but I was, like I said, I was not a complete person in and of myself to be able to, to let that be enough and to leave it there. And I thought I needed other people to help save me or fix me or whatever. And I mean, really, that's the church kind of mindset about it. Jesus came to show that there was another way to do this outside of religion, and a whole different group of people latched on to the fact that he existed and turned him into something that he wasn't trying to be. So we could all rely on somebody else to fix us. That wasn't what he was trying to do. He came to go through hell is what we're told. Here's the thing. This 3D existence and thinking that we're separated from everybody else, that is hell. It's not somewhere else you're going to outside of yourself. It's somewhere we chose to come here to learn, not to get fixated on this concept of going somewhere you got to go when you die. Because every time we start judging and, hey, quit, hating on each other, that's adding more layers to the hell that person has to go through to come more into who they are. There's Eva's gonna escape now. She's watching a bird in the creek. Yeah, but that's stuff we have to go through, because our energy, if we're not protecting ourselves, our energy goes off and kind of does its own little thing, and then if we say something, whether we mean it or not, then we end up locking ourselves into the stuff that we don't even realize we're doing. And Jesus came to show us that there is a way out of that. You can do it. And that's what we have to do to be able to learn and grow. Not because we need a Messiah outside of ourselves to save us and do it for us. All that's done is create a freaking narcissistic society where nothing's ever our fault, but we also aren't going to contribute to fixing the problem? No. That is exactly contrary to his whole purpose for being here at all. Now I'm getting hungry. And it's so funny because I'm starting to realize where this stuff is coming from. But like, every time church comes up, I find I get really triggered, like, immediately. And it's like, there's something to this. It's like, I know I spent a lot of years in the church. I know that it serves a purpose and is helpful at times. Hi, thank you. Okay, we will go in a minute. Because, that was something that in my attempt to learn and grow. Okay, that's enough. Sorry. In my attempt to learn and grow, like, I've always been taking in all this stuff. Like, I have always been somebody when I get really, in my college and later years, when I really need to work on something, I usually will fast for, it can be a matter of hours, or I think the most I've done is 15 days. And they serve very good purposes. That one was a big one. Although I still went back into old habits after that one because I wasn't protecting my energy, because I didn't know that was the thing I needed to do. But it gave me some insights about some stuff that was going on, and that there might be more that was happening. Because, then I was very much focused on believing what the church told me. And I went to church, I think it was after I'd been fasting in that time. And I remember there was this, somebody was holding a baby in front of me. And of course we get up for the song and the service, and this baby is just staring up over my head. It's like, What is it seeing? I want to know. But I think that was one of those things that really gave me a kind of a nudge. There's a lot more going on than you have any idea. And so the church is a legitimate path to finding that. But there's so much with religion itself that tries and usually succeeds to keep people locked in to unhealthy ways of being. Yeah. And I think I'm going to leave that point there for right now. Yeah, there's a bunch more to that story, but if I keep going, I'll be here forever. So I'm going to sign off. Once again, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. And until the next time, bye guys.